Hey everybody, and welcome back to my channel. Today's video is answering one of the most asked questions that I get as a creator online. And first thing that anyone asks me is, how did you make friends post 30 in a whole new country? So I'm gonna give you some tips and my experiences on how to make adult friendships, even if you didn't move to a whole new country, if your situation just changed, if you moved to a new city. As we all know, the older we get, the more lonely we feel. And I feel like a sense of community is something that is really lacking in today's society, especially because I think capitalism awards people who go away from communities. So if you're really into your career and your job and you don't have time for investing in your social life, if you really give up everything and just work, work, work. And I think the more we go away from community, the more it is easy for them to exploit us. And, we need each other to survive. And that's how humans are created. So to me, friendship, it's not just something that I want because I want somebody to hang out with. To me, it's really about building a community, because when life happens and life gives you curveballs, these people are the ones that are going to be there for you, and vice versa. You need to be them for them as well. So this is how I approach making friendships in my 30s, and this is what I did after moving to the Netherlands to make a community for myself with absolutely amazing friends. I think before approaching adult friendships and going out there and putting yourself out there, the first thing to do is being very comfortable and happy being alone with yourself. I think self-work is so important, and if you're not happy being alone in your own company, I don't think a lot of other people would like to be in your company as well. And people can really sense a vibe when they meet you, and it's not to say you have to be perfect or just perfectly happy, but you have to at least be on the journey of self-work, to more self-reflection. And I think being alone really helps with that, being alone with your feelings and really thinking about what you want and what you like is the first step to understanding yourself. And once you understand yourself, you can really sense what kind of people you want to be around, and that makes it really easier to connect with people. When I first moved to Amsterdam, it was COVID 6 months later. So it was really difficult for me to meet anybody, let alone like new people. So I was actually forced to do a lot of things by myself. And I really took this opportunity, but to just explore things by myself. I would go get coffee by myself. I would go eat at a market stall by myself. I would go to the museum because I had just come to Amsterdam and I couldn't meet a lot of people. That didn't mean I was just going to sit at home. So I think the first step really is to be so comfortable with your company and kind of like fall in love with yourself, because I have to say, people who like themselves give off a different energy, and that is what attracts other people to want to be with you, want to spend time with you. And if you work on that, that is also just a really good investment in yourself. So I think the first thing you have to do is really self-reflect, work on yourself, go on a solo trip, do things alone, see what you like, see what gives you energy and what makes you go like, this is great. So that is the first thing I would do, and that is, I think, a step a lot of people miss. Connected to this is going out of your comfort zone. I know this is like the most cliche thing to say, and it's very nice to stay comfortable. Why can't we just be comfortable and hang out with other people from our nationality and culture? But wouldn't you want to hang out with people who are not from your culture, because you can learn so much more about life and the way of living and new perspectives? Because to me, that is the best thing about living in Amsterdam, which is such a cosmopolitan city with a melting pot of so many different types of people. And I found it to be a gift to get insights into so many different types of cultures, habits, thinking, perspective, experiences. I think you're really missing out if you stick to what you know, especially when you've been given this privilege and this opportunity to go out in the world and, experience all of these new things. So putting yourself out of the comfort zone not only means doing things by yourself and being uncomfortable that way, but also just experiencing things that you would normally not do. And that is how you expand your circles and horizons and do these things that you don't know where they will lead you. If I give an example from my life, I do a lot of different things outside of my work. So I do stand-up comedy, I host pub quizzes. I do dance classes like belly dance. So doing all of these things makes me meet so many different types of people. And these things were not just, okay, I'm just going to do them. It was just, this is really hard and I'm very scared, but I'm still going to do it. I'm just going to do it scared. I think people, when they see me online, they think, oh, she just does whatever she wants and she can just do everything. It's so easy, but it's not easy. I just do it anyway. I'm scared, I'm nervous, and I just do it anyway. The first time I performed on stage, I was so nervous. I was like, what am I doing? This is not what have I gotten myself into? But the minute I got on stage, it was like, this is where I'm meant to be. So it's also like, if you don't try new things, how do you know if you like it or not? So you really have to put yourself out there, not in just terms of people, but also activities, doing things differently, going to different places that you never thought you would. An activity that you find interesting, just go try it. If you want to try pottery, go try it. You might meet a really amazing person there who has similar interests as you. Which is the third point. Go to events, workshops, all of those things. You are not going to find friends sitting at home watching Netflix. It is harsh, but that is the reality. You have to go out and meet different kinds of people. And I know this is really hard for introverts because I'm an extrovert, which I found out only like 3 years ago. Hilarious, but I'm an extrovert, so it is easier for me to go out and meet people and talk to people. But if you're an introvert, this might be hard, but it's so worth it. Like at your job, if something is hard, you don't say, oh, but this is not based on my personality type, so I'm not going to do it. I would approach investing in my social life the same way. It is hard, but the results are so worth it. You need people around you. We were not meant to do things alone, especially when life happens and things happen, or when your family is super far away, all your friends from back home are super far away. You shouldn't go through things by yourself. And that's why I think when people don't prioritize their social life, it is a disservice that they're doing to themselves. And I think in the current modern late stage capitalist world, we're programmed to not invest in our social life because that takes away from our working time, especially for men. I think there's such a patriarchy has really done a number on men because men are never told to prioritize their social life, and somehow talking about your feelings are considered feminine. And what is friendship if not talking about your feelings and connecting with each other and sharing your perspectives and thoughts? And if you're feeling bad one day, just to call up your friend and have a chat. But I don't think this is limited to men. I think in late stage capitalism, we're all programmed to not pay attention to this. Like, this is the last thing you should be doing if you have time left. But to me, investing in friendships and the people I care about comes almost top of my list. I will make time to invest and meet friends and make plans and cook for them, and because to me, I value them. So if you don't show people their value by being in their life and checking in on them and making the effort, the friendship is not going to blossom into something deep. Which brings me to my next point. You have to make an effort. You have to make a genuine effort. I think a lot of people these days who say, oh, I'm lonely, it's so hard to find friends, I have no community, is because they don't want to be inconvenienced. And friendship means okay with being inconvenienced. If your friend says, hey, I'm not feeling well today because this happened at work or in my family, you can always say, hey, do you want to meet up? I can come over to your place. I can do something. What do you need? And I think this whole we don't owe anyone anything has gone way too far. And we do owe something to everybody because we live in a society. And if we live in our own individual silos, this is what they want. This is what they want, for us to be completely disconnected from each other. So we do owe people and society something, especially if we want them to be there for us. We have to be there for them as well. And that includes making plans, reaching out, offering support, looking up places, making reservations. These seem like small things, but this really helps keep the consistency in friendship. It's not about reaching out once and that's done. You have to constantly make an effort for friendship to become more deeper than a surface level friendship. Once you know all of these things, how to actually go out and meet people, I think the best thing to do is list down all the things that excite you and that you're interested in. For me, that would be fashion or sustainable fashion in particular, because that is what my work is. Anything to do with art, anything to do with dancing, anything to do with comedy or stage performances or storytelling, and anything to do with food, because I absolutely love food. And if you don't know what actually excites you, go out and try a bunch of things. See how you feel during those events. See if you are actually interested in doing something more like that. So then you will know if you actually like it by trying it out. And once you know what your interests are, hunt out all the events that are happening or workshops that are happening around it. So I went to every event that had anything to do with sustainable fashion. This is also when I was freshly arrived in the Netherlands and was also looking for a job. So this also helps with that. I went to every event, like workshop, anything that was happening, and I would actually go up and talk to people. And I think if you're in spaces of things that really interest you, it is a very easy way to go up and talk to people rather than at a meetup where everybody has a different interest and you're just stuck doing small talk and nothing actually happens. So if you go to something that actually interests you, then you already have a common ground with that friend because they're also there. So say you love beer and beer is something you love to explore, go to a tasting and there'll be other people there. There are events like sip and sketch where you can sketch while sipping on wine, and then you meet other people who are interested in being creative. And I think those are kind of really good ways to get to talk people while you're doing something of your own, but you're kind of forced to mingle with others. I will leave a bunch of resources below, Facebook groups, Instagram accounts where you can find more events. But my advice is really to use social media to be social, because all the events or things that I find, I just find them on Instagram because I follow accounts that do things of my interest. There are some accounts dedicated to posting events, and with Amsterdam, you really, really cannot go wrong because there's so much happening here all the time, to the point where you could do something every day, twice a day if you like, because there's always something happening. So there's no excuse to not finding something that you may like. And once you're at the event, go up and talk to people. It's hard, I know, it's scary, I know, but you have nothing to lose, because I can tell you nobody is thinking about you. Nobody is thinking about what you said, how you reacted, how you behaved. Nobody cares. That is the most liberating thing for me, at least. And if nothing happens, you just leave and nobody will think about you after, because I don't think about anybody after I meet somebody at an event. When I went to events and workshops and all those kind of things, I would proactively go up to people, talk to them. You're at an event that interests you both, so talk about something off the event. And in the end, I would always say, I would love to have a coffee. Do you want to hang out? Take their Instagram or their phone number, and I would reach out, make a plan, and not just say, hey, do you want to hang out? But make a plan saying, hey, would you want to go to this thing with me, get a coffee before or a drink after? So you make a plan and give all the emotional labor that is required for the other person to say yes, and just show them what a lovely person you are after. People respond to kind people and positive people. That's why the self work in the beginning is required, for you to have that energy where you're empathetic, where you are a good listener, where you're an open person, because those are the qualities that other people want to be around. I'm sure you also want to be around those qualities, right? So try to be the person that you would want in a friend, and you will find those people. Just like you would like a really lovely person to be your friend, you have to show why you should be their friend. Why should they invest their time in hanging out with you? Like, my trick has always been to cook Indian food for people. Guess what nobody says no to is Indian food. So if I met someone, had a coffee, the second thing I would do is invite them home and cook for them. This is mind blowing for a lot of Europeans, because this is not the culture here, is to just invite somebody over. So I found people to be really touched by this action to invite somebody over and cook for them, which is where I think sharing your culture is something that really comes in handy in making new friends as an adult. First, you have to integrate into the culture. I live in the Netherlands and I know what is the culture here. You have to be on time, you eat earlier, like at 6:37, you always split the bill when you go out. So all of these things are very cultural here, and luckily I am kind of like that already. I love being just on time. I hated that when I was in India, that people were not on time. And I don't mind eating earlier. I love that we split bills at the restaurant. I love tiki. So I've also integrated into the culture a lot, which makes people see that you're not entitled, that you're flexible, that you're willing to, also meet them halfway. And once you've integrated as much as you can to your comfort level, of course, you don't have to do things you really don't want to do. But I think being on time is something you can do to be respectful. But once you've done that, you can share your culture, because just like you want to explore other cultures, Europeans love exploring other cultures as well. So I love to have like a Bollywood movie Indian food night. I love to invite them to like a art exhibition by an Indian person, or just anything cultural that is happening around you or you create it in your home, because Indians are really good at that, like creating an amazing vibe at home. So whatever culture you come from, share that, because that is the most beautiful thing about different cultures, is sharing and exchanging and experiencing it. And I think that is what brings us closer as humans, because the more we share our cultures and our perspectives, we see that we're the same. We have so much more in common than not. So I think that is something I love doing, is sharing my culture, like my like Indian fashion, Indian food, Indian movies, Indian songs. I even did like a Bollywood dance party in my living room once when my friends were over. So create an atmosphere where you're sharing your culture, so you don't feel like you're super far away from your comfort zone, but you're in process sharing that with other people, and then they share their culture with you. And I love this sort of cultural exchange, which is such an important part of community building. Also, how I approach all of this is I am kind and positive without having an agenda. It's not that I'm on at these workshops, events, meetups, whatever, on a lookout for like a best friend, or like, no, I need to make a friend today. That's not the purpose. The purpose is to just be out there and meet people, and something may come out of it, but that's not the agenda. The agenda is to experience things. And I think once you take that pressure off yourself, that, oh my god, I need to make friends right now, that's when things get a bit more easier, because first, you're not putting so much pressure on yourself. Second, you are working on yourself, so you really enjoy your company as well. And then the third thing is, once you have these things, right, people will give that kindness back to you. That has been my experience, because you need to have patience. The first friend I made was 7 months after moving to the Netherlands. It does take a while for you to meet that one person who is also willing to give the effort back and reaching out to you as well, and not you just reaching out, but you have to wait for it. And while you're waiting for it, it's not time lost. You're still experiencing new things, you're meeting new people. To me, every time I meet somebody new or I'm in a different environment, that is a very valuable experience that I add to myself. And that does not mean if somebody doesn't become my best friend, that is not valuable. I think that is the mindset you need to approach this with. Another thing that will help you is working in a company here. So I have a really big group of friends now after 5 years of living here, but almost 80% of them are people I met through my work at my last company, or just in general in sustainable fashion. I think this is very niche because I work in climate action, sustainability. There are a lot of people who are very passionate about this one cause. So our political views align, our cause, like the things we fight for, align. We go to protests together. So I think in this field of work, there are a lot of people with the same values and morals. So that has really helped me make very deep friendships, because we talk immediately about really hard hitting things. And that's another thing, that when you are with people, I think you really have to dive beyond small talk. Small talk is hated by most people because it is tiresome. How many times can you tell people what you do and where you work and how long have you been in the Netherlands and all of those things? sounds like a repeated track record. I think we all have like small talk fatigue. A lot of times we would skip the small talk because that in the end is not really what matters. You can come to that later, but what really matters is if your morals and values align. And also sharing your stories. What have you experienced in your life? I think stories is a great way to show a part of yourself that no one would otherwise see unless they were really close to you. And I think that is what brings people closer together. If you went through a hard time with someone, you're more likely to be really close with that person than with someone who didn't see you at your worst. To me, that is how I am by default. I'm an oversharer. I share my deepest, innermost thoughts with the random strangers. I make content online, so obviously I do that. But if you don't do that, this is your sign to do that. I know it can be very difficult, but I think you need to have like a shameless, cringeless bone in your body that just go makes you go like, hey, I can share whatever I feel like sharing. This is why I created the storytelling event that I host with my friend Follow Me, Borol and Gupshup. I will leave the details below because we're having two more storytelling events. The Amsterdam one is sold out, but the Utrecht one is still on and tickets are available. But basically what the event is, it's called Borol and Gupshup. So my friend Follow Me, who's a chef, she's gonna make Indian street food. With the food, we're gonna tell stories to each other. So I'm gonna host the storytelling, I'm gonna tell my story, and then I invite other people to tell their stories as well. I will leave the reel I made from our first edition. And when I tell you, it was one of the best nights I've experienced, because in the beginning, people were so shy to tell their stories. After the first break, everybody wanted to tell their story. Once you start doing it, you see that it is not that scary. We're just people in a room connecting with each other. This is how I feel you skip the small talk. You go straight deep dive into something if you share a part of you. And this is where I come to the most important point. You have to be vulnerable. I understand how vulnerability is super hard, and I, again, it's my default. I'm a very vulnerable person, and I thought it was a weakness because I thought I'm just being vulnerable and showing my weakness to everybody. But I think it was even my manager in my last company who told me that is your biggest strength. The fact that you're so vulnerable, that you're not afraid to show your vulnerability, is your biggest strength. Never lose it. And I think I really, now I totally believe her, because the minute you're vulnerable, people can relate to you, people can connect to you, people show their vulnerability as well. You kind of make it safe for people to show their real self. And I think that is such a gift to have, and you can make people feel safe and share something. And that is what I feel like I created that night. And I'm so proud of it that I can't wait to do it again. But it just goes to show that if you're vulnerable, if you're open, if you're open minded, if you're just ready to experience something new, wonderful things can happen. And it has taken me 5 years to build sort of this community, and they were really there for me when things went absolute south and I needed comfort, I need support, and like check in on me. So if you needed convincing, this is your sign to go out there and have deep, meaningful conversations with people. So there were days during COVID when I would be out on a sunny day and I would feel absolute crap that I had no one to hang out with on a sunny day. And 5 years later, I have so many people who even reach out to me, hey, it's sunny outside, let's go do something. And it's been a really long journey to that. And I can totally feel if you're going through the same thing where you're in a new country or even in a new situation. And if you're going through something like that, I feel you. I feel you. And just know that this is temporary and this is something you can change. And all it takes is just some patience. And in the meanwhile, you work on yourself, because that is something that will really not only give you a lot in the long run for yourself, but also attract the right kind of people. So I hope this video helps you in your quest to making adult friendships. It is very hard. It is very exhausting, but it is so fulfilling and it is so crucial to invest in your social life. So look at it as an investment into yourself and prioritize it. Prioritize your social life. Don't leave it to something you do if you have the time, because it is something we all need, and we were not meant to do life alone. If you like my video and you want to see more content, please subscribe and like and comment, because otherwise it's very easy for me to procrastinate and not make a video and not be able to talk in front of the camera, because I haven't done that in months. Hope you like this video, and I will see you next time. Bye! Even if you didn't move to a country, even if you didn't move to just work. So I think, do you know actually I have not spoken into camera in a really long time. If you and this also, and ties the so I really think when so this really helps keep the consistency. This really helps environmentalist meet new people,